starting the game. There we go. So we got that 60-minute countdown. We do add a little bit of cushion to that time limit, just to give teams enough time to respawn. So looking at the red team, we see that they have their all selector kind of already in there, and they're already kind of getting that box sizing in, which is a great property. One of my favorites, honestly. It should be in there by default. I say it all the time. Nothing. Well, we'll see. Hang on. Okay, I was gonna see. Maybe blue team's working on that SAS, but no. It looks like they both decided they're gonna go with the CSS instead of SAS. So, bit of a disappointment, I think, because we haven't seen anybody actually take advantage of SAS yet here on DevWars. But maybe in the next game, in the classic game mode, if you have your mindset on playing in that game, then hopefully you take advantage of it. Now, if you look on the blue team, they're kind of going right into the content. They're not even worrying about resetting any of the margin or adding box sizing. They're not worried about any of that. They're just like, you know what, I'm gonna start adding the logo and stuff. So that's cool. And on the actual code, you can see that the airline is called Red Airlines. Now that's just the name of it. It doesn't have any it doesn't mean that it's actually like just the red team's airline. It's just, that's just what the business is called, so it's just completely coincidental. But yeah, so you guys can totally see the code for yourselves by just going to your browser and typing code.devwars.tv, or in the chat typing ! Live code, and the bot will spit out a link to where you guys can actually scroll down through this code as well, and you could even look at the websites. So, real quick, I'm actually going to show you what the blue team's website looks like real quick. So this is what it looks like. You can see that it's very basic. I mean, we started it not too long ago. And we have a background image. We do see a lot of spacing there. You see that top, you got white spacing, and that's because he didn't reset the margin. Like we talked about earlier. That is what red team's doing. Well, actually, no, not even. They only added box sizing, border box, everything. They haven't even, did the clears for margin and padding. But that's not to say they won't do that later. But yeah, so I mean, it's pretty basic right now. We did see in the CSS code earlier that this image was implied to be the logo. So I'm gonna actually refresh real quick to see if he, okay, no. Yeah, so basically this is supposed to be the logo. He has to make the thing more defined, and he has to make it so it doesn't repeat. And he also, yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's got to pretty much figure it out. But basically, it looks like it's a background image, but it's not, because we read his code. But alright, so we're gonna look at the red team now. Let's check that out. So this is the red team. They're not anything noticeable. You can't really just look at it and think they've done anything with it, but we know they have. But just wanted to kind of show you guys that they are starting literally just from HTML. And now we're gonna pop right back into the game screen to view the code. One moment. Okay. So over here on the red team, it looks like he's working on his wrapper now. So he decided to go with the 980 pixel width. So a very definite size in pixels. Let's see if he takes advantage of the minimum or maximum width. I am refreshing, by the way, to fix that gutter from C9. But yeah, so let's see if he takes advantage of max or min width. Those are great ways to kind of be more creative with, or mindful with responsive design. Because we are going to be taking a look at that. later on. Over here on the blue team, I do want to point out that some interesting stuff is happening on this nav class, because he's floating it. He's deciding to go with the float method to, you know, get things positioned the way he wants. Then he's declaring that it's a relative, so we can only assume that maybe he's going to use position absolute. Don't know yet. And then, but then over here he's declaring these, and these aren't really properties you need to you know, use if you're using position relative. So maybe he's kind of, I don't know, maybe he's just trying to figure stuff out. There is a lot of pressure on that time though, trust me. So you kind of lose your mind in the game. And if you look at the very top, he has the class of body, and he is using resets of margin and padding. However, there are no body classes on the actual website. So that is something maybe he'll notice later on. Only time will tell, but again, I think he meant to target just the body element in the HTML. Let's hop over to the red team, see what they're doing. Still no you know, resets as far as margin or anything like that, but we are opening up some new selectors for the header, so that's kind of open. Now he's just adding some more selectors. Not really worried about properties at this moment, it looks like. Yeah, so this is another strategy we've seen a couple of times here on the show, where people just go, you know, run through and just kind of organize all their selectors after getting familiar with the HTML, and then that way they, you know, it's almost like the whole reason behind it is just to kind of have everything in just that one document, and then just all you have to do is worry about plugging in those properties. So we did take a look at the blue team and red team's website. We're going to actually pop back in and see what's new now. So here's the blue team site. So actually, it would even seem like, you know, less is going on compared to what we saw earlier, but I mean, really the biggest reason I would think that you would feel that way is just because the background image is gone. I mean, that background image just gives it like so much I don't know, it just makes it feel like there's so much to it, but really it's just like one line of code. And let's refresh and see. Okay, he probably just didn't set the height and width. You do need both of those properties in order for an image to actually show. So I am looking at his code right now, and that is the case. So okay, and I just refreshed. It does look like we have some colors, and I noticed the navigation bar kind of changed a little bit, I think, in his orientation. So that is, he's definitely kind of structuring his layout and stuff and getting that all figured out. This HTML is actually quite a bit hectic compared to some of the other ones. I mean, it's not that bad, but it's not bad at all, to be honest. But I mean, it is definitely more than we normally do. A lot of inputs, selectors, you know, we got select menus, we got radios. I mean, those are some stuff that will definitely slow them down if they're not, you know, careful or quick on that. What about the red team's site? Let's check them out. Alright, so this is how the red team's doing. Yeah, red team went with the whole background color. I actually kind of like that color. I think he could probably do something good with it. I don't know if it's a temporal color. We'll have to just see, but you know, not that much time has went into the game yet. But yeah, we'll go back to the code now. So if one of my mods can just give me a little update on the timer, it's just not showing right now. Let's look at the blue team's code right now. it does look like he did add that height attribute, or yeah, property in there. So that is gonna have his logo show now. We did see that it wasn't shown before. Again, he just didn't declare the other property. And he is floating that to the left, so he's going with the whole left logo and right nav style layout. The timer, we didn't like actually reset the time, guys. We're gonna put it back to where it was. So no worries there. We're not just allotting them more time. But basically, if we look now over here at what blue team's doing, he is adding hero styles, similar styles to hero and featured, and that's good because, you know, he's noticing those similarities in just the HTML. If we look at that, you can see that there are, you know, in the way that it's structured, you can just kind of assume that you can use the same styles, and for him to do that saves a lot of time, and it makes his code a bit more modular. So that's good. How about over here on the red team? See what they're doing. Red team does look like they had some more properties actually added to their selectors that we saw were open before. And you guys now see the timer, it got fixed. So that is good. And red team's going with the whole floating the logo to the left and the nav to the right as well. We haven't seen a lot of Flexbox lately. It's quite rare to see Flexbox around here. You know, that worries me because, like, well, okay, that shouldn't worry me at all. I'm just saying, like, Flexbox is definitely in the future of layouting and stuff compared to floats. I'm definitely excited to see more support on Flexbox soon. Another great way to do another alternative to floating, you know, layouts and stuff. If you're trying to do grids with float, another great alternative is, well, a better alternative is display inline block. So maybe we'll see some of that action in the next game. We'll just have to see. We're gonna actually pop into the blue team's website and see what they've done so far. So this is the blue team's website. So they have their logo. It is like a cute little airplane. I don't think he meant to do this. You know, this is kind of some of the stuff that happens with floats, but I mean, it's up to him. But I think he's still kind of working on his layout. This is supposed to be the hero right here. And everything from the red nav to the actual logo of the airplane is in its own container. So unless he's shooting for a style like this, you know, I think that'd be interesting. Nicole said, "Oh, how cute." Yeah, it is a pretty cute airplane, not gonna lie. We're gonna look at the red team site now. Okay, so on the red team site, you can see. I mean, I think it looks kind of the same since the last time we saw it. We do have the little bullet point right there, and he didn't get rid of that. Now he could keep it, of course, but generally when you're doing navigation bars and you're wanting everything to be on the same line, there's really no point to having that bullet point there. So I doubt that's what he actually wants. Let's go back over to the code now. So in the code, blue team, it looks like they kind of got rid of that whole comma thing. They were, you know, they had the same styles being applied for hero and featured class, but they kind of replaced the whole thing with the main tag. So we'll see what he does with that. You know, I think he's a bit confused. Never mind. Okay, I did see that max width there. Got it. How about red team? So red team's definitely kind of ahead right now in a sense that they have, you know, more stuff in their code. They actually have more lines of code and all that good stuff. Yeah, so I'm gonna let you guys know another great way to do unordered lists is to actually have all your list items display inline block instead of floating it. It's just so much better that way. You don't have to clear any of your floats or anything like that and worry about the, you know, flow of your page. It just works out beautifully. If you, I mean, that's the way ideally inline block was supposed to be used. Floats actually were used a lot for getting the text to kind of like wrap around an image and stuff, but people have been just using floats for all kinds of stuff, even like templating and stuff. So it's the kind of world we live in. Let's look at the blue team now. So this is the blue team site. You know, okay, so something I noticed is the navigation bar is now kind of sitting above the heading 1 tag. So that's actually quite major in the sense that now we kind of get a better idea on the way he's trying to structure everything, and we know that he wasn't trying to have his heading on the same line of his navigation bar. He's just trying to sort that out, I'd imagine. I'm actually going to inspect this element because I want to see where everything is. So this is the header, and I think a lot of the problem here is actually that he's messing with floats, and I don't see anything in his actual code to suggest that he's actually clearing anything. And now it is a bit difficult because, oh, it's not difficult, but it's different because, you know, not a lot of people. Okay, well, you're never gonna have a scenario where you can't touch your HTML. You know, only in DevWars is something like that. So they're gonna have to take advantage of pseudo elements, for example, to add clear fixes into their documents wherever they need. Let's actually pop into the red team now. So the red team, nothing noticeable yet. I still think they should definitely get a logo. Curious to see what both teams do with this section right here. We'll just have to see. Back to the code view. We do have a classic game mode right after this game, so if you want to play in that, there is going to be HTML, CSS, and JavaScript as opposed to just CSS. So it is going to be 6 people battling each other simultaneously in the next game, and we do introduce objectives, 5 objectives. So definitely stick around for that right after this game. So 39 minutes, basically 40 minutes on the clock. They still have plenty of time. You know, I don't know what's going on the blue team. They kind of are being a bit stuck here. You know, there's definitely a lot of stuff he could be doing, especially in that 20 minutes. But it looks like now he's starting on that header. Maybe he's trying to figure out the whole float thing. Maybe that's giving him a headache. I'd imagine so. I think that's probably what's going on. I don't even see his nav selector anymore. That used to be there, but he took that out. So we don't even have the nav floating to the right. let's look at the red. Red is kind of working. They have some interesting selectors here. I like it. You know, you definitely want to use selectors such as the way he's using it, because you know, you can't just go into the HTML and add a class or change any of the class names or anything like that. So you have to understand specificity to get what you want targeted, because a lot of these elements don't actually have classes. So you can accidentally target. So, you know, in this case, he may not want to target all list items. But anyways, we don't oh, okay, over here we see that he took off the bullet points. So when we go back to his website, we should see that bullet point gone. And he is making his anchor tag a block, a display block. So what that's going to do is that's going to put all his navigation bars on their own line. But maybe that's not what he wants, because he just threw that float down. And that display block is actually not really needed then. And we have a anchor hover effect too. So he's working on those little details. Those details do matter. We do cover, you know, all those little hover effects. It's even worthwhile to add transitions to your website. It kind of, you know, it kind of makes your site look just that much more pretty. Let's go to the blue team's website. And Immortal, hello man, what's up? I did tell you to say hey to me, so, and I'm saying hi back. I appreciate it, and glad that you're here for the show. So right now we're looking at the blue team's website. I'm gonna skip this song though. We are looking at the blue team site, and they're kind of going with like a they have like a lightish gray background now, and then their forward content is like a darker. I mean, obviously it's like a darker color. Now, I don't think he's actually going to keep it in that color, because it doesn't really look too pleasant. Now, he may be using that color scheme just to kind of see where all the layers are. We've seen some people in the past, some other contestants actually utilize the all selector and add an outline to everything. And what that allowed was you to see, you know, where everything was at really quickly, and it's actually quite clever. We haven't seen too much of that yet, well, recently at least. So it does also look like he did get that navigation bar where he wanted it to. I think that's where he wants it. Still kind of the default, you know, styles on those navigation links up there. You know, it's just kind of all purplish and stuff. But and you can tell that he has a defined width on that nav. Actually, I don't even let's check. Maybe not. Let's find out what's going on here. So maybe it's just a padding or something. We'll have to go back to his actual code to see what is causing that. But yeah, so that's the blue team site. We're gonna look at the red team now. Red team site is definitely coming along. They did clear those margins that we saw earlier, and now his website fits nice and snug. Well, I should say somewhat nice and snug, because I do have to scroll left and right, you know, and I think that's because of his defined width on his wrapper. Yeah. I'll get into that in a moment here. We'll go back to his code, and I'll show you guys what he probably could do instead of that to prevent this and still have kind of what he's looking for at the same time. But yeah, basically We have this action going on. He may add some media queries too. He may be mindful that, you know what, I'll have time to add media queries later and I'll just focus on that and stuff. So, but I think it's coming along. I like that choice of color that he used for that red header. This is kind of an unusual color to pick, but I doubt that he's actually going to keep it that way. Yeah, but he's definitely being mindful of hover effects and stuff, and he's working kind of from top down. We still don't have like a logo yet for the red team. We'll see what they pick out for it. I'm sure he wants something clean. We'll look at the code now. We do have a classic game right after this, so if you are interested in playing, let us know in the chat. And if you are, what position you want to play. Is it HTML, CSS, or JavaScript? There is 33 minutes left on the clock, so we're nearly halfway there. Still plenty of time to do all this stuff. I think you can tell both teams are kind of gaining momentum, especially blue team. They kind of hopped out of nowhere. You saw earlier they were just kind of chilling with, you know, 3 selectors max, and he kept deleting stuff too, so we never really had any progression, but now he just kind of exploded and he's doing all kinds of stuff now. So I'm just thinking maybe when I refresh the blue team site and we take a look at that again, there's probably going to be a lot of new stuff. But when we look at the code here, let's see what's new. Okay, he has 2 main selectors. That's kind of weird. Maybe he's unaware, or maybe he just switched that up last minute, didn't know. We'll see what he decides to do. What he might do is he might actually add a comma next to this main, and he might reuse that. I'm not sure. What about the red team? Red team, you know, both teams are doing a great job in kind of having a semantic order in their CSS. They're not just, like, their footer's not at the top and their header's not, like, at the bottom of their CSS. That stuff kind of helps with readability. So that's all that stuff. And then down here, he has this margin property. Now, there's actually a shorthand way to do it. He could literally just scrap the last 2 parameters right there and actually still get the same thing. But we don't know if he wanted to leave those. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way, writing it like this. But he can very easily keep those zeros there, and if he ever wanted to just, you know, add maybe a margin to the right or something, he totally can. Very quickly, since he's already had it formatted in such a way. It looks like he's now working on the column 3, okay, so it says column 3, and so that just kind of suggests that you're gonna have 3 columns, right? So it makes sense that he's choosing the width to be 33%. We'll see what he does with the column, you know, to actually structure it. Is he gonna use flexbox? Is he gonna use display inline block? Or is he gonna use float like he's been doing with his other stuff? I haven't seen any clear fixes actually in the code either, so I don't know if they're just kind of, you know, offsetting the floats by just throwing a bunch of margin in there until it looks right, or if they're actually gonna do it right by, you know, using after pseudos to add the element into their HTML and then just clear fix it. We're gonna look at the blue team site now. Okay, so, you know, basically what I noticed, the biggest thing I noticed is that he did start changing the anchor tag colors and stuff. So it used to be like the default purple link color for visited, but now he just kind of overrided that with the white color. And when you hover over these navigation links, we do get, you know, a background hover effect, which is good. And then still no styles on the actual form, nor the hero, nor like you know, the footer. A lot of stuff that needs to be done. 28 minutes and 45 seconds. Now we're going to look at the red team. Alright, this is the red team site. I gotta say, I was a big fan of when he had the header like pressed up against the top. Let's find out why we have this spacing. We're actually gonna just straight up right click his code and see what he's doing with it. Okay, so he's doing this on purpose. He added a margin top. So I mean, if he likes that look, you know, I can't judge him for that. Maybe he's trying to do something cool with the logo. Maybe he has an idea where the logo would like kind of extrude past the header bar, you know, and maybe that'll look cool. So we'll have to see what he actually has planned for that. But he did add that in there, that margin top. So I mean, he did it. He wanted it. We can see down here the columns actually took place that with 33%, and I'm looking at his code right now. He did float that to the left. So that's one way of doing it. And I think what he's probably going to work on next is this actual hero section, because this is where the bulk of the content is. I don't see his footer at all. Oh, there it is. Okay. He still doesn't have a logo. We'll see what happens. We're going to get into the code now. Okay. So we have 26 minutes on the clock and 50 seconds. We don't want to forget the seconds. Down here, we're working on the footer on the blue team. So if we look at the HTML for the footer, you know, there's really not much in there. It's just you have this footer HTML5 tag, and then inside of that you have another div, and it doesn't look like he's doing anything with that div, and that's totally fine. There's no real reason to, unless you wanted to get specific. You don't actually have to utilize every single element that's on the page. You can even display none on some stuff that you don't want on your website, but you know, your audience is gonna, if you're playing and you do decide to do that, you know, the audience is going to, I'm sure, take that into consideration. I mean, that you just straight up deleted code basically in a different way through your CSS. So that can either be looked at laziness, or that can actually be looked at as a genuine decision. If it fits better with the design, you can totally make decisions like that. There is no rules against doing that. But I mean, yeah, the footer's pretty simple. Looking at that HTML code, it's just you got the copyright and the logo to the right. And on the blue team, he did have that commented out too. So maybe he's gonna add it back soon. There's actually a quicker way to do this too. Like, well, yeah. So he didn't actually have to put on every line the comment. I don't think he knows. But you basically could do like a slash and then that that star sign asterisk, and then at the very bottom just close it off with it. Let's look at the red team now. So red team's working on that main right now, judging by his, and that's Pavlin handling the CSS. He's working on that main selector, getting that padding looking real fresh and nice. He does have that border box sizing, so he doesn't really need to worry about his content, you know, extruding past the size that he wanted it to. we're gonna look at the blue team's website again, see where we're at. So, you know, I don't understand why. Okay, so both blue and red team kind of have this fetish going on with the whole margin top on that header. Like, they're both feeling it. So, I think that's pretty funny. I think if our blue team, maybe what would be nice would be to give this bar right here some breathing space by just simply going into this list item. For example, you could do it on either on the list item or the anchor tag. We'll just do it on the anchor tag. He could actually give a padding top like 10 pixels. Okay, and you know, floats are actually, there are no clear fixes in here, so maybe that's why he hasn't done anything with it. But you know what, I just noticed that a problem that he's having in here too is that we have a bunch of anchor tags inside of a single list item, so that's kind of weird. But you know, that's just some of the stuff that they have to deal with. You know, they can't actually go in there and change that. That is absolutely weird, but we have some strange stuff sometimes that we throw into the HTML on purpose just to like throw them off. For example, sometimes we'll have verbiage in the actual hero or something, and it'll be like randomly capitalized, and like, you know, we'll have one letter lowercase, the next 3 letters uppercase and stuff. So that kind of hints them at the idea of using like the text transform property, you know, to control that. There's different ways to do stuff. Yeah, they can only touch the CSS, so the HTML is untouchable. That is kind of the interesting bit about Zen Garden. But yeah, so that's the red team. I'm going to do one more quick refresh just to see what has changed. Okay, so he did get rid of that grayish background. So we'll see what he decides to do then moving forward. But we're going to go back to the code now. Random dude asked a good question. Can they link external images? Yes, they absolutely can. Okay, so what is blue team working on? Currently the footer. Yeah, so there is no need to actually do, you know, margin 0 auto when you're setting your width to 100%. Generally, the idea behind margin 0 auto is to like center your divs, your blocks, but I mean, he may have a point. You know, I don't know exactly what he's going to be doing. We have some arguments right now in the chat about SAS versus less. You know, I think it's worth mentioning that, you know, Bootstrap switched over to SAS. I don't know. I mean, it's not really that big of a difference, SAS and less. I mean, I'm a SAS lover though. I'm all about SAS. I'm not going to use less, but you know, it's not that crazy of a difference. But I think one of them should die eventually, like HD DVD. You know, Blu-ray eventually won. They both had the same idea, but just one was just a little bit better, and I think we should just stick with one. But what can you do? Okay. So we're looking over here at the blue team now. Don't see, okay, I see a cursor right here. Fog the Catman is working on that main selector. He's got a defined height on it. When I'm coding and styling stuff, you know, I always try to avoid defined, you know, height or widths, to always kind of be mindful of dynamic to just keep everything dynamic and responsive. You know, anytime you have, even when you're dealing with vertical alignment, like you would think only width is something you need to be concerned about. Sometimes that's a misconception, but height is also something that can be dynamic because you know, the content can shift, and then if the content shifts, the box isn't going to extend now. So it's kind of also good to be mindful of the vertical responsiveness of your divs. While we're just kind of giving time for the you know, both teams to just code right now, I do want to mention we do have a subreddit, and if you're into Reddit and stuff, definitely stop by our subreddit. It's just reddit.com/r/DevWars. You know, we there's a lot of fun stuff going on, especially lately. We have these weekly code challenges hosted by Bo, and if you like kind of keeping current with your skills and just always, you know, finding new challenges to excel your coding skills, then, you know, come to our subreddit and participate in those submissions. There's been a lot of people who've been submitting their stuff, and Bo goes over the, you know, all of the submissions and kind of gives his feedback on it, and we even chime in as a community toward the submissions just because they post it on there on our subreddit. So it's really fun. Definitely recommend you stop by. Quick Pixel is wondering what my phone number is. Quick Pixel, why, man? What's up? I mean, I love you and all. I mean, alright, look, I love you enough to give it to you in a private setting. How about that? And then someone's asking... Never mind, I'm tripping. Oh, okay, actually, no. I'm not tripping. I got a text message. That's what that was. So basically, Nicole, a friend of mine, she's watching. A really good friend of mine, actually. She's watching right now, so that's super cool. That's her first time watching. Now, she asked me a question over text message about DevWars. She was asking, what's the difference between Classic and Zen Garden? And I shall skip the song first of all, and this one too. And I'll explain that. So basically, we have two different game modes here on DevWars. We have Classic and Zen Garden. And right now we're playing Zen Garden, and it's basically a 1v1. So it's just one person versus another. And they're only coding in CSS. So they're literally just styling. They're not doing anything with the HTML, which is basically like where all your meat of your website is in terms of, like, I don't know. I always have trouble describing HTML to, like, you know, in just a general way. But basically, HTML is the content of your site. And then Classic game mode is where you have 3 different languages. We introduced 3 different languages, and they're basically positions in DevWars, and we have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So that's when things get more hectic. You know, we have 6 people playing at once. Let's pop in now and see what's happening on the blue team's website, and then we're going to look at the red team's website, and then we're going to look at the code and see what has changed. So 15 minutes left on the clock. Let's take a look at the blue team. Sidos wants to know my fax number. Unfortunately, I don't even have a fax machine, so I'd totally give out a fax number. I don't care about a fax number. if I had one. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I don't really notice too much different other than this. You know, he's got the column set up. Now, he doesn't have any images inside of here, which is a missed opportunity. He still totally can do it. You know, the HTML actually implies that it's supposed to be an image, but he could do whatever he wants. And there's definitely some spacing that could be added here, too, to kind of give this column some breathing room. But I mean, anytime you're dealing with float, you're gonna have a hard time. So I think that's what's been going on a lot here lately on the stream. We're gonna look at the red team now, see where they're at. All right, so on the red team, I think it looks nice in the sense that he decided to go with the background image. Now I'm not sure if that's his logo or not. Well, I'm just gonna go with a background image. The reason why why I even brought up the idea that it might be a logo is because we saw Blue Team do something like this. They literally put an image that looked like it was supposed to be the background, but he actually set it as the logo. But we'll see. So on the body, yeah, it is the background image. Makes sense. It looks like a background image. So I don't know if he's just not gonna do a logo or what. I mean, it's up to him whether or not he wants to add one. But it's just gonna make his site look better. I think maybe that's why he wanted to add, you know, the spacing over here to kind of have the background seep through the header and the hero. Maybe that's what he wanted, that kind of look. But anyways, we're gonna go back to the game now. I mean the actual code view. And you guys can like totally look at this for yourself in your own browser too, like the code and the websites and all that good stuff. Okay, so let's see what Blue is working on. Currently that column, and he did add the margin to the top, but we don't see any margin to the left. So that's, or to the right, I mean. Oh, he could do left too. But basically, if you remember when we looked at the Blue Team's website, those columns were kind of close together, like very close. He could get rid of the background image, that dark gray color. I don't know if he's going to actually keep that or not, but, you know, because we have seen colors kind of switch last minute sometimes here on DevWars. You know, the color scheme has always been like everybody has kind of like that temporal color scheme mindset, just so they could simply see and then worry about the accents later. How about on the red team? They are working on that main selector. We're using RGBA because he wants to, that alpha channel is going to allow him to give some opacity to that color. We have some people trying to bet their dev bits right now on the current game. We don't have betting in Zen Garden. However, if you stick around, you can bet on the classic game mode. So still kind of working on that main. So judging off of this background color, okay, he put incorrect. He's supposed to put a value here, but okay, he's working on that. So while he's working on that, what is Blue Team working on? Now, real quickly here, no one's imported any fonts. Oh, actually, I lied. Red Team imported Open Sans. That's what's up. You know that. Like, you have no idea how much a font can do for your website. Like, it does wonders. Alright, guys, we're at 10 minutes now. Mods, please let both teams know that we are at 10 minutes. So, you know, time is running pretty short here. They should be mindful at this point that they're going to need to kind of start wrapping stuff up, because 10 minutes isn't a lot when you're actually playing DevWars. We're gonna scroll up and see Blue Team's what he's working on. It looks like Blue Team also has an alpha channel on their main. Interesting. Are they like talking to each other or something? Well, who knows? But he's definitely playing with that alpha channel. Looks like a very faint transparency compared to Red Team, because It's literally just 5% transparency on his main background color. Now we're actually going to take a look at the blue team site right now, and you won't believe this. Look at that. What is going on here? So it looks like blue team imported a background image of a map. Okay, so you know, there's probably I think it's interesting that, you know, the choice of images that blue team picked, you know, from the logo to their background image. What he could do with that background image is actually do a background size cover, and that's going to prevent the background from like not fully extending the top and bottom to me, you know, on your browser. 8 minutes and 25 seconds left on the clock. We're going to look at the red team now. All right, so on the red team, they're going with the look of like a. Okay, you can see that they made their main, you know, 30%. Yeah. So 70% opaque. And yeah, it looks good. You know, you can see a lot of that background. No hover effects down here. Pretty much everything down here has been kind of unstyled, other than the fact that those columns are, you know, on the grid. He does have one of these links selected, which is actually a tab. I think he's misunderstanding this as. No, I'm misunderstanding. I thought this was okay. Yeah. Okay, so but he has one selected still, and he styled that. Now I don't know if he's gonna go with that blue color or if he's gonna go with like a different shade of red. Now check this out. I'll show you what I mean. So he could probably go with like something like that. I think, you know, just simply dropping the color a little bit would make it look nice. You know, still keeping that same color. It's up to him though, what he wants to do. I don't think he's gonna keep it that blue color because that's like literally just blue. Alright, 6 minutes and 35 seconds left on the clock. We're gonna go back to the code. So, you know, that background color is actually so transparent. I mean, so not transparent that earlier we saw. I just refreshed the blue team site. It is okay now. Yeah, so what are they working on in 6 minutes? I'm trying to find blue team's cursor. Oh, there we go. So blue team is working on the header. We got margin bottom, so that's going to give some spacing on the bottom, and he got rid of that. So I guess he said never mind to that. Well, what about the red team then? GG. I just saw him write GG. So I don't know if that means he's just done. He's kind of writing us a little message down here. Um, 5 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock. You know, there's really not much you can do at this point. There's nothing major unless they're like super quick. We did see like a major speed boost of explosion on the blue team earlier. You know, they kind of came out of nowhere. They're just sitting there, you know, idle mostly. It looked like they're idle. I know they weren't. But he came out of nowhere, like a bunch of properties and stuff. So he might do the same within the next 4 minutes. Who knows? We're going to look at the website again. This is going to be the last time we're going to look at it until the time runs out. And then we're going to just focus on the actual code. So blue team, you know, it looks still the same. Let me show you real quick about the background. So remember how I was saying that the background was repeating, and actually he probably doesn't realize, but basically the background's repeating. If you see here, he could simply fix that with the background size cover. Oh, he has it on there actually. Yeah, no idea then. I think that's very interesting choice of background image still. Shots fired. But interesting can mean all kinds of things. Okay, I like that he got rid of the background on all of these columns, because that doesn't make it look like they're just like, you know, squeezed up against each other. It looks like they actually have space between it, and when you hover over it, you know, you get that hover effect. Now, it could still use some breathing room, not gonna lie. We're going to look at red team now. This is the last time we're looking at it, and then we're actually going to go back to the code, and then when the time's up, we're going to review both sites, and you guys are going to vote. Alright. So, red team. We still have kind of the left and right action going on because we have a defined width in pixels. It basically looks the same. We didn't see anybody like work on their actual, you know, form. So that's a bit of a shame. You know, something he could probably do right off the bat is probably make all these text colors white. You know, on top of that black background, I think it'll be easier to see than the default black color. Other than that, we're going to get back into the code screen and we'll see what happens in the next 2 minutes. So mods, just let them know, 2 minutes left on the clock. So on the blue team, he's adding a box shadow on the anchor tag, and that's going to give it a shadow effect. So he's working on, like, he's not going to do anything, you know, I think major as in terms of layout. I think he's working on details at this point, which makes sense because, you know, a minute and 30 seconds is not a lot of time. So whatever cool stuff you can add, like such as hover effects and stuff, I think it's an ideal time to work on stuff like that. What about the red team? Over here on the red team, he wrote a little note next to list style type none. You know, that's funny. And then if we scroll up here, I mean, he had a message here earlier. I never actually got to read it. I don't see the message. It's not here anymore. If anyone knows what he said, let me know in the chat. So apparently he stepped away from his computer. I guess he's just pretty, you know, feeling comfortable about his design right now. Yeah, both players are kind of new at CSS. You know, they're not yeah, and we match them up fairly. You know, we're not gonna put a pro up against, you know, someone who's just starting. So we balanced it out. 30 seconds left on the clock. So it's basically just we're looking at blue team right now. He kind of cut out some stuff there, and we have 14 seconds left. Here's the 10-second countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Game over. GG. Alright. So we'll see what has changed since you know, we last took a look at it, which was only like 2 minutes ago. We'll refresh the blue team site. We always work left to right. Okay, so this is the blue team site now. At this point, I would say you guys should totally open up your own browser and go to red.devwars.tv and blue.devwars.tv. That way you guys can like play with the website all you want, because we're going to be going over it and you guys are going going to be voting on who has the best design. So keep that in mind as we go over the site. So this is the Blue Team's website. So right off the bat, we have their logo. This is their logo to the left, and they're using float to kind of section everything off. And when you hover over these navigation links, we have like a light blue hover effect. And the entire main div that they're using here, well, it's not a div, but the entire main element here is kind of like a grayish transparent color. That background image is of a map, you know, and they have the hero here. I mean, I like that the text is easier, you know, it's easier to read than that I remember from the red team. We'll see if he's changed it since. Probably not, because I think he left. But it is easy. You can see all the text. That's good. We didn't get around to actually styling any of this. We don't have any custom fonts imported on here, so that's something to note. Now, when you hover over these, you get this. It does look like he took off the hover effect when you hover over the box. I think that's a good choice. So now you don't see the edge of the box touching the edge of the text. And then down here, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. You have the footer, and it's just kind of thrown like that. You got the copyright. Now, it's kind of overlapping depending on how far I raise this up. Now, that's because he didn't actually clear any of his floats. So he never actually controlled the overall flow of his content. It's just all kind of floating, so that's why we're getting this effect. Alright, so that's the Blue Team site. We're going to look at the Red Team. We're going to refresh. So this is the Red Team site. Red Team has a first thing you notice is that background image of the airplane. Their website does scroll left and right. So did the Blue Team, and that's because they had you know, a defined width in pixels. When you hover over it, you get like this blue color, which is it kind of a you know, interesting choice of color there. One of them is staying highlighted. We have a black transparent div here that's kind of making this text a bit difficult to read because you know, it's black on black. You know, he hasn't styled anything here. We didn't see that on the Blue Team either. All these anchor links have been left untouched, so there's still that default visited color, that purplish color. And there are no hover effects there. We don't have a logo at all. And yeah. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. And we have the copyright down here, and the logo's not there either. But and one more thing, he did import a font, and that is Open Sans. So that might be why his fonts, you know, the verbiage on the site looks a bit better. Other than that, let's throw up the vote for design. All you have to do to vote is type !red or !blue. And your vote will be accounted for right there on the screen, right above me. So go ahead and start the poll for design. So there you guys go. You can see up there votes are coming in pretty hot on the red side. Now, the way it works, this bar, that voting bar at the top, is you have to cross that threshold in order to, you know, get that extra point. And it doesn't even just give you an extra point. So the most amount of points you can earn from this voting phase is 2 points, and you can actually steal points from your enemy by your opponent by, you know, crossing that threshold. Other than that, if you stay in between the center-ish, it is going to basically make it a tie. So, votes are coming in on the Blue Team now. So this is the Red Team site we're looking at. Let's take a look at the blue. That is not the blue. The blue. So this is the Blue Team site. we're gonna kind of go. We're gonna do a back and forth action. So this is the blue, and this is the red. So it's whichever you like better. Everybody wants me to refresh, and I did. So it's just, my website might look different from yours because I am at a different resolution than you might be. And we might even be using different browsers. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how the background only works for me, and it's not working for a lot of you guys. Huh. Alright, 10 seconds left to vote. Alright. Alright, so basically, blue had a higher amount of vote, but it was kind of in between that threshold, so it's both teams score a point. We're going to be voting on functionality now, and what that means here on Zen Garden Games is how well the site looks in a different resolution. So we're gonna use the Chrome inspector for that. So we're gonna start with the blue team, and we're gonna work our way from the blue team to the red team. Now keep in mind how well the website looks like at a different at a mobile resolution. We're just gonna pick one and see how it looks. So we're gonna use the Apple iPhone 6 as a demonstration. So we're gonna refresh this, and this is basically what the blue team site, and it's not 100% accurate, but this is what we're using to see the site, and we're gonna do the same with the red team. So this is what blue team looks like on the Apple iPhone 6 using the Chrome inspector. And so far, I mean, all the content is actually in the site, so that's good. The only exception here is that you kind of got some funky business going on down here. Some overlapping, and like I said, that's because of the float never got. There was no clear fix on those floats, so that's basically why the flow has been changed. But so yeah, take that into consideration. Well, at least everything's there, on a horizontal scale. It looks like we have some funny business going on in the TeamSpeak. I don't know what that's all about, but we're gonna look at the red team now. This is what the red team site looks like on the Apple iPhone 6, and wow. We see some big differences here, actually. Yeah, that's kind of. It's we have a lot of empty space. Actually, it's acting kind of weird. It's up to you guys. What do you guys think? This is what the site looks like. Not a lot of stuff is in here. All this is kind of extending past. There is no 100% width in this resolution or anything like that. I am refreshing too, so yeah. Anyways, we're gonna throw up that functionality vote, and you guys kind of decide what you think. But so far, blue team has more of their content actually fitting into their website. So go ahead and throw up that functionality vote, and then just, same process. It's either blue or red. Either blue or red. We're going to look at the blue team site. Some people are voting for green. Green did do an excellent job this game. We're gonna switch back over to red now and see what they got. This is the red. Not everything did fit in there. And the blue team again. it looks like Blue's definitely looking like the victor in this case. That extra bit of properties that he added really helped him out to ensure that his site stays within the resolution of the browser. So I think that's very good. That definitely helped him out win this. So I'm waiting for the bot to kind of spit out the time limit left on 30 seconds. Okay, so 30 seconds left to vote. So make sure you get your votes in. So it's either blue or red. Ten seconds. And it looks like it is over. Okay, so blue got a lot of votes there. They definitely crossed that threshold by a lot. And so they won. Blue team won. Congratulations, blue team. You won. We didn't have to go into a tiebreaker stage because you did an excellent job on the actual responsive part of the code. This song is actually pretty obnoxious. But anyways, we're going to actually pop into the score overview. And I'll leave you guys with that. We do have another game after this, so stay tuned.